Hello, worldies, and welcome back to my naughty little channel. I hope that you all are doing so amazing. I am going to be re recording a video that I actually was trying to get up for you all recently, but was not able to get up for you because I have a new mic and apparently I am like having trouble figuring out where it needs to be in order for you all to actually be able to hear me. Like, even right now, I'm looking at it, I'm like, is it actually hearing me? I don't know, but I guess we're going to find out. I hope I'm not screaming in your ear. I hope I'm not barely whispering because I'm trying to talk loud. But, anyways, I wanted to ask, like, is this keeping you from social climbing? So, there's been a lot going on in the media, and I have I have so many thoughts. If you watch some of my views, you know that I have thoughts. I have thoughts about everything. I'm a yapper. But I have just like on my social climbing journey, there is something that I will say I've noticed that specifically the unambiguous community struggles with a lot. But other people can struggle with this as well. I've not always been perfect at this at all. It's something that I have really feel or something that I feel as though has helped me on my journey, and that is rejecting political monoculturalism. So I want to talk about this. I've been wanting to talk about multiculturalism for a while now. I want to talk about the concept of political multiculturalism. Now, I don't really know if that's a term really, but I like that in space. A lot of people make up words and terms that describe what they mean, and I feel like I want to try that just because I really like the terms and end up using the terms that other people make up. And so I want to try and make this something that I'm able to talk about. So, if you are not aware, like over here, we talk a lot about monoculturalism, multiculturalism. One is not necessarily better than the other. It all has to do with your social climbing goals, you know. But I'll kind of just like start off with like some core concepts for this conversation I want to have. So I want to talk about multiculturalism, which would be like the political or the social philosophy that societies are strongest, or even your own life is most beneficial to you when you're embracing and protecting like diversity or plurality of different cultural identities, values, and ways of life, versus monoculturalism would be the view that maybe a nation, a society, or even your own self, that you should navigate only under a single dominant culture, often tied to nationalism, maybe a shared history, traditional values, beliefs, anything like that. So when you're involved more so in a lifestyle of monoculturalism, you're going to often find yourself dealing with like the echo chamber effect. That's when people are consuming media and they're surrounding themselves only with like minded individuals. And then, like, the alternative or the dissenting perspectives are basically filtered out, reinforcing the existing beliefs. So, when it comes to that, when you're surrounding yourself only with the people who think just like you almost kind of feel as if like those beliefs become stronger. You feel like they are more logically sound than other perspectives. You start to feel as if they're universal. You start to kind of even develop a hierarchy mindset of like anybody who doesn't think like this is literally just stupid. They're literally just ignorant. They just are not well researched. They are just insert any ist. They are just transphobic. They are just homophobic. They are just racist. They are just colorist. They are just, sexist. That's the only reason that somebody would not think the way that we all do, is if like the other perspective just becomes so like otherworldly, and you would kind of call that in psychology cognitive insulation. So that would be like in a a monocultural or an ideologically homogenous environment. So that's a space where everybody believes the same thing, everybody thinks the exact same way. The viewpoints that are not a part of that space. So either the opposites, people who just think differently, all those other different types of ideas, even ideas that are opposing. So the people who may disagree with your, like that space where everybody believes the same thing. That's what the culture is basically based on. All of those other ideas, not only do they feel like really foreign and kind of out there because you're so used to only coming across the same views as you, but they actually start feeling more threatening. They start to feel like it you're gonna get a culture shock because if you're just sitting in your own little echo chamber, you're not practicing what it feels like to maybe sit with the discomfort or even have your ideas challenged or even just see the other ideas exist. It comes up as like a culture shock and as a threat to your system, a threat to your way of life. You can start feeling like you have to defend your way of thinking or even like this person is encroaching upon your rights or your space or whatever. And a lot of people, they feel as though they have to defend their identity because a lot of people, when it comes to like culture and politics, they're going to equate their cultural, their political identity, what they believe, with their personhood, with their selfhood. So an attack on their worldview, even if it's not really an attack, it's not even necessarily somebody saying, I disagree with you and I want to challenge you, which even that is should not be seen as an attack. That's more so can be looked at as a debate, trying to understand, trying to like find some sort of middle ground and discuss, it ends up feeling like an attack on the person itself. That's what happens when you're only in your echo chamber and everybody around you is just like ideologically homogenous. They all have the same ideology. Everybody has the same belief. That's all of the movies you watch, all of the books you read, all of the people that you follow on social media, all of the content that you even take in because you don't even have to follow somebody to take in the viewpoint, all of the articles that you read, all of the the news that you watch, all of the I don't know if people listen to the radio anymore. Like I know people have like Sirius XM and are listening to like their own, like you've got the aux and stuff, but if you don't plug your aux in or you don't have Bluetooth in your car or whatever, listening to the radio, I only listen to these radio programs. I only support these celebrities that have come out and said that they have the same beliefs as me. And if I find out that a celebrity votes different than me or they believe a different thing than me, then they are no longer allowed in my bubble, in my environment. They, because I feel as though they are attacking my worldview. Now, a lot of times people, you know, there there are a lot of psychological things that will go behind political things that take place. So you may hear people talk a lot about confirmation bias, which is essentially when you already have a belief in your head. And so when you're interacting with the world around you, you're looking around for the evidence that that thing is true. So like for example, like this would be like a non-political thing. You can see this with like the unambiguous dark skinned black community. They may say things like them being taught that, oh, they have to work twice as hard for half as much. People don't like their skin tone. People think this, that, and the third about them. And so whenever, they're getting rejected from a job, for example, they're going to look to confirm that the belief that they already have is true. So when they get rejected from the job or whatever, they don't get hired, they have a bias in their mind that makes it more likely that they're going to assume that it's because of their skin tone, it's because of their race, as opposed, it will filter out all of the other possible situations. There's so many reasons you might be rejected from a job. Maybe you're not a culture fit. Maybe you are overqualified. Maybe your personality is trash. Maybe they already have somebody just like you there, and you wouldn't like it'd be like, well, our team needs this type of quality. It's not that we're looking for a specific race or specific color. We're looking for a person who has this skill because our team already has a person with XYZ skill. You could be super qualified, super amazing. They can love you, but they'd be like, well, we don't need two of Sarah. Like, we already have Sarah, and you're great, but we don't need Sarah. There's also situations like, you know, uh, people, sometimes hiring managers, they may be aware that if we add a certain person to a team, if you know how are you stereotyped to be, what are the stereotypes surrounding you, your group, and how you handle conflict. Sometimes they may hire somebody they deem to be more safer, or somebody who doesn't, that they don't stereotype as feeling like they're more oppressed, because you know maybe they're like, well, if there's a conflict, we don't want to have somebody on the team who's going to, we're trying to talk about performance, and they're going to go to their race, they're going to go to their color. We don't even want to get into all of that, or even when it comes to certain political things. It could be even a class thing. Sometimes people don't understand how they could be rubbing somebody the wrong way without knowing it. Sometimes people, they just assume that their belief is obvious and everybody else has that belief. I've come across that so many times where people just like start talking to me about their politics and stuff, and they just talk about it as if it's completely universal because they're so used to being in their echo chamber. They look at me, they assume that I believe the same thing as them, and they start kind of venting or talking about somebody else, and they have no idea that they actually just offended me. And it's like, I've dealt with this from people of different backgrounds and stuff. Like, this is not something that, oh, I only deal with conservative people, or oh, I only deal with this white people or whatever. um I have dealt with that with, I would say, Gen Z. I've dealt with that with boomers. I've dealt with that with, you know, people who are more unambiguous and stuff. They may be saying certain things about identity, or, maybe it's politics or whatever, and they're just looking at me and they're assuming that I believe the same thing as them. And I'm like, they just said something that completely attacked my character or something like that without them knowing. They're saying like, oh, people who think like this, they're da 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 da. And I'm like, well, I think this and I'm not da da da. And I'm just kind of looking at them like, wow, you just kind of came out swinging, and it just makes things awkward. But you know I feel like oftentimes when you get to those politically monocultural echo chambers, they're thriving because humans, they're naturally, like, the confirmation bias that I'm talking about. Humans naturally have this is not like a, I don't think this is like a moral failing, or like you're stupid or you're weak, or you're mentally ill or whatever. Like, that's not what I think it's like a natural psychological phenomenon that we're looking to be proved right, about whatever we think about ourselves and the world and whatnot. So we're naturally going to be seeking out information that validates what we already believe. So that is kind of like, where echo chambers kind of come from. Even when you talk about like-minded um, individuals in general, um, anything can become an echo chamber. And I feel like the echo chamber itself is not necessarily the issue, because everybody's looking for people who think the same way and looking for their safe space, of people that they could connect with on certain things. But I feel like the issue more so becomes if you never leave your echo chamber to realize that, okay, well, everybody over there connects on that, but that's not what the whole world is like. That's not what the barista down the street feels like. You can't just start, like, you can, right? You definitely can, but it's like, it definitely, people don't understand how uncomfortable it can be for other people if you just start talking about things like it's common knowledge or common sense and blah blah blah. And it's like, it not necessarily is it. And this is not for me to attack any certain political party or belief or anything like that. I I try to stay moderate. I try to stay balanced. I try to stay center. I try to look at everything issue by issue and all of that, because people get super extreme on either side. Both sides can be like that. Just kind of start talking out the side of their neck of whatever they feel like is, super common sense, and you're just sitting there looking like, and I'm not even the type of person who's always looking to be offended. So it's like, if you've offended me, it's like you're kind of just out of pocket with whatever you just said. I am pretty thick skinned. I don't I'm not gonna say I've never been like that, but I definitely am as I mature, becoming the type of person where it's like I don't just go towards the most worst case scenario of why me and somebody are not getting along or why something didn't work out. Like I don't necessarily just go towards the worst case scenario. But, sometimes people they almost feel like they have to, like, how do I want to call this? Like I feel like they feel like it's a threat to their culture that they have to respond to. Like in a more monocultural system, the alternative perspectives are going to be framed more so as destabilizing forces rather than legitimate schools of thought. As a matter of fact, you could see this, an example of this with the recent debacle that's happened where Chrissy was in a tizzy and having a whole hissy fit and all of these things about the exotical space most recently, where she was saying that um, our space is causing chaos and this, that, and the third. Um, that's exactly what this is. It's a threat to the culture. So her culture of her channel and her platform is we're the bottom of society and we're so oppressed and nobody likes us, and so we have to basically swirl and divest, and that's the best way for us, and we're all average, blah blah blah. So whenever somebody, our space, the exotical space, basically exists as a threat to that culture, it's not, they have, because there's so much of an echo chamber monocultural belief system going on over there, where they're just kind of parroting back and forth the same beliefs. They're looking for every situation to prove how they're at the bottom of society as unambiguous dark skinned Black women. Then when somebody like our space is coming with legitimate talking points, it's a legitimate school of thought, it's legitimate, like people have not really been able to debunk the things that we've said accurately at all. um, it's looked at more so as chaotic and destabilizing, and oh no, people think something different than us, as opposed to like, oh, they think something different, like agree to disagree. Like I feel like certain things you should be able to be at a agree to disagree. That's fine. It should be able to be like that, or be able to discuss. I'm curious why you think that and stuff like that with complete respect. With uh, an earnest heart, not being like sarcastic and nasty about it, or just trying to have a gotcha moment and stuff. Like you should be able to, if your beliefs are um if they're valid enough, they should be strong enough to be challenged with words and with debate and with logic. It shouldn't be chaos and destabilizing and, all these other things that people will try to say, and, I do feel as though when it comes to when monoculturalism politically can get more dangerous is when you're feeling as though different thoughts, different schools of thoughts, different cultures, different beliefs, they're undermining cohesion, they're undermining unity, and in order for us to have unity we have to be the same. That's kind of more of a dangerous thought, because like I said, you're going to be seeing anybody who disagrees with you as a threat and as destabilizing and as a chaotic force, as opposed to just being like, oh, that's a legitimate opposing school of thought. Versus I feel like when you're embracing a politically multicultural worldview, it's not even necessarily that you have to agree with everybody, because how could you even agree with everybody? That's not necessarily the case, but that's more so the thought that, well, difference strengthens our ability to be resilient and adaptable, and we need unity through diversity. That's how we are able to unify and be strong, is that we're all able to believe different things, but nobody feels as though, oh, well, your belief is a threat to my existence and a threat to what I believe, and that's destabilizing and chaotic. We are strong when, me, I absolutely love in the exotical space where we're like-minded women who connect on certain things, but we are so diverse on so many other different things when it comes to background, politics, dating style, like just so many different things. I absolutely love the fact that I come into certain things with a politically multicultural mindset and just multiculturalism in general. I love, being able to say, like, oh, like I never thought of it that way. Maybe I don't now all of a sudden agree with you, but I don't feel like, oh, it's chaotic that this other exotical has this different belief. It's more so just like, oh, that is different. And I think I've probably said this before, like I'm more apt to be to allow myself to be influenced by them. Not that whatever, not that my beliefs are just going to change with the wind, but I don't feel threatened if another person that I connect with on one thing, we don't necessarily connect on this other thing. That's fine. That's okay. That's cool. It keeps me balanced. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me adaptable. It keeps me being able to be prepared for different social situations. And, it opens my eyes and helps me not go into public and I've met people where it's like within the first 10 minutes of meeting them, they have said something where I'm like, wow. I don't want to say where's your home training, but like, ooh, you went there already. Like, where's the small talk? Where's the how's the weather? Where's the you catch anything cool on TV? You went straight for the jugular. Like, there are some people who are like that. And, it definitely does harm their ability to social climb because it's like you don't know people. Like when you're stuck in your echo chamber and you're not even allowing yourself to hear other perspectives, you think they don't exist, or when you hear them, you literally don't know how to react. You don't know how to be, diplomatic. Like there are ways sometimes, even over this weekend, like I was socializing with some people and there was something that I wanted to communicate to them that I felt about something, but I knew how to communicate it to them without directly saying it. There's a way to kind of have some subtext to what you're saying. I was basically kind of expressing something to the tune of, I really think it's important and it's beautiful when people are able to, discuss and disagree and debate and stuff like that. Like, I really love that. I hate when people want to take things to like an extreme and feel like, oh, we can't even talk about things anymore. And that actually drew those people closer to me because even though I wasn't specifically talking about the thing that happened and stuff, I was signaling some sort of, social safety that, hey, like, just, me stereotyping you in my mind, you might be looking at me because, you may see people with a, not the same skin tone as me, but you could potentially think that I feel like this about this, and there are ways to kind of ease into that and kind of talk to people for a while. And, there were certain other questions that I asked them, just very low level, basic questions, just analyzing people's responses and kind of what they're saying about certain things to be like, okay, I feel like it's safe to vaguely say this thing. And then I ended up, after the situation and after the conversation, having those people want to socialize with me more and everything because I didn't walk in with guns blazing and offending them by, just putting out a really polarizing worldview about something and making them feel like I am judging them or whatever. Like there are ways to just kind of signal socially to other people that like, hey, you're safe, you're cool, we're cool, we're fine. I'm not gonna just I'm not the type of person who's gonna think that you are blinkist da 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 because we disagree about something. Like I try to be that type of person socially, and it opens so many more doors when you signal yourself as a type of person who is comfortable with other perspectives existing. I've noticed that like sometimes like I want to talk about classism as well soon, especially because like the Raven Ross going viral for her take on, you know, Pilates and, diversity and the legacy and stuff. I've seen a lot of takes on it that I didn't hear anything wrong with what she said. And it's so funny that like she would pop up and go viral because I literally just watched season 3 of Love is Blind. So I've been wanting to kind of like talk about that season with people and everything. And I'm so like I'm not happy that she's getting backlash, but I'm happy that she kind of like ended up like viral and in the media again because I'm like, oh yeah, perfect. Because it's crazy how things work out. I literally just watched that season for the first time because like I remember when all the stuff was getting posted about her and SK, I didn't even know what people were talking about. I was like, oh, that girl's pretty. That man is not like. I was just like wondering, like, I didn't really know what was going on, but I will say that I feel like there are so many strengths when it comes to multiculturalism. For example, the aspect where you're exposing yourself to pluralism or like duality, diversity of thought, it it's going to force you to reconcile with the fact that other beliefs exist in the first place, and even being able to debate different moral frameworks, which is going to strengthen your critical thinking. So, like, if you ever seen like a movie where they have like a debate club at the school, or even if you were in a debate club, yourself. I was not personally, but like I know that that's a thing that people participate in. Something that I think is really fascinating, um, something that I don't think I even knew was how those clubs um function from my understanding. I'm trying to think, what did I watch recently where there was like a debate in like a debate team in it? I'm not sure. Um, I wish I knew, but I definitely watched some sort of media recently, like maybe a movie or a show where that was part of it. And if you're not familiar, from what I understand, they're debating a certain topic. You find out that this is going to be the topic you're going to debate. You're going up against somebody from this other debate team, and you basically get assigned whether you're arguing for or you're arguing against it. And for you to win, you don't get to basically say like, oh, I'm going to debate something that I agree with. I will only debate like positions that I agree with. It would be like, hey, this is a topic. Like for example, I'll just use something like really polarizing, abortion. I don't even know if you can say that on YouTube. I feel like that's like my catchphrase. Can you say that on YouTube? But it will be like, okay, you are being assigned that you have to argue for it, or you have to be, you're going to get assigned that you have to argue against it. And it doesn't matter what you feel in your personal life or what your personal decisions look like or your own view of it. To win the debate, you have to debate the best. You have to use the critical thinking skills and the research and everything, to make the best case for that, no matter whether or not that aligns with how you feel in your personal life. And so, when you're embracing political multiculturalism, it allows you to strengthen your critical thinking of your own viewpoint. Or even just how you're able to understand somebody else's. Like I always feel like it's a very crappy debate if you can't debate the talking point and you want to go towards just attacking the person's character, bringing up some, oh, look at their hair, look at their teeth, look at their skin, look at their, blah, 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 like all these random things. And it's like, you would never win in a debate team or anything if that's what you went to. You wouldn't win. And, it's not even necessarily that it's about winning, but I just feel like if you're going to believe something, you're going to go so hard for people, go so hard for their beliefs, then you should be able to, if your belief is that sound, I just feel like, I don't know how to say this. Like, I feel like if your belief is really sound, it should be able, you shouldn't be threatened by discussing it with another person and just talking about the facts of the situation, just debating. Like, if your belief is really that secure, your position is that strong, you don't need to attack the person with the opposing viewpoint. You could just attack the viewpoint. You wouldn't have to attack the person. And I feel like even if, like, let's say you're not the type of person who likes to debate or anything, even just exposing yourself to other viewpoints, and this is something that I'll do sometimes. I'll go to some sort of, content, some sort of media, video or something where maybe the title, the creator, I'm assuming I'm going to disagree with them. Like that, or even the title is revealing that they disagree with me on something. I'll say, okay, let me watch this. Maybe it's a little triggering or whatever, Then I kind of sit with that in my body and I kind of reflect after, like, okay, after seeing that, how good was their logic? Did their logic of how they reached that conclusion make sense? And sometimes it does. Sometimes I'm like, well, I actually see that. And I love feeling like that when it comes to different topics, where it's like, oh, I actually see the other side of that. And that actually makes a lot of sense. Even if you like didn't convert me or whatever, like, I love that. It helps me. Like, I feel like it's easier for me to feel convicted of my certain beliefs when I feel like the other side, like the opposing viewpoint, is logical and it does make sense and it is sound and, it does make sense, but it's just not what I agree with. Like, I prefer more so a debate where it's like both make sense. I hate where it's like I don't know if I want to say I hate that, but that's just like when it comes to critical thinking, like your position should be sound enough for the other position to also be sound. It shouldn't have to be that the other person is mentally ill, the other person is, a racist, a colorist. It shouldn't have to be that. Like, you shouldn't have to move the goalpost over to talking about the person's character and this and the third, or their personal life, to be able to talk about the talking points. Your talking points should be strong enough to not have to, like, you shouldn't have to go into all of that. And I feel like when I, expose myself to opposing viewpoints, it helps me become a more critical thinker. It helps me to not just assign this person is just stupid when they disagree with me, but to say, well, this person feels as though this way, or they feel this way because the thing that I value is this. One of my fundamental values is XYZ. One of my fundamental beliefs that I see the world is this. And so this person, what they're saying is valid, but it's valid from their viewpoint of they don't necessarily value XYZ as much as I do. What they value more so than me is this other thing. And so that viewpoint makes logical sense. It's sound for people who have a different value, a different value set than I do. It makes me, it's like it's challenging my mind. It exercises my brain and it helps me socialize. Like, it definitely helps me to be aware of the other viewpoints that are out there, and just be like for example, just the awareness that not everybody thinks the same way that you do. I don't walk into spaces and go say the most polarizing thing assuming everybody agrees with me. I know how to wade into the waters and see and pick up on other things, like, okay, I value this and I believe this. Let's see what this person values. There are ways to kind of discuss this, or ways that they may signal it from their lifestyle or from the different things that they're talking about in conversation. And then you kind of know how to test the waters and say something a little bit more vague, but then they're picking up on what you're putting down and they're like, oh, hold on, I found somebody who has the same ideology as me. Or even I found somebody who is not going to judge me for having an opposing viewpoint. We could hang out. We could do whatever. We could socialize together. We could, be in each other's networks, whatever. And sometimes I'll have that where even if I have a different viewpoint than somebody, I've still been able to, have them open a door for me just because they really respected the fact that I didn't isolate them or make them feel some type of way, make them feel like, oh, they're just stupid because they disagree with me on something. On my channel, I this is my place to express my shadow, so definitely I get more dark, and I will say, like, if you don't like, I that's not lost on me. The irony is not lost on me, but I feel like when you're exposing yourself to other viewpoints and you don't need to make every other viewpoint simply invalid for yours to stand, I feel like it kind of pumps the brakes on groupthink a little bit. Where everybody's kind of just following the same framework. Everybody is kind of, if one person thinks this way, we all have to, if you want to be a part of this group, we all have to think the same type of way. Like, I feel like having that exposure to diversity of thought and different identities, it reduces for me the likelihood of, one single ideology dominating my life unchecked. Like I like to check even in on some of my beliefs. Sometimes I'll go through and I'll analyze this thing that I believed 6 months ago, this thing that I felt like I valued 6 months ago. Is that still important to me? This goal that I had 6 months ago, from everything that I've exposed myself to, do I still feel that way? But sometimes I'll find that, well, maybe it's not that I still feel that way. Maybe at that time I was feeling this way about XYZ because I was in this place, or because I didn't yet understand this, or maybe my values have shifted, or whatever the case is. There are just so many different ways that you can expose yourself to different viewpoints and then reassess. And it makes you stronger. It makes you, I think, a better debater. And it can even deepen your conviction in what it is you believe, just because you know that it's been checked. Like, I don't want to believe anything that I feel like, oh, I'm triggered if anybody wants to kind of try to poke a hole in it or something. Like, I love my beliefs and stuff like that I have, where they're getting debated. People are, who are strong and sound debaters, and they're logical people, and they're well educated and stuff. They are trying to basically like hold up a light to it or hold up a mirror to it. And I'm like, okay, even with a smart person, a smart, good debater who's logical and everything that I respect, kind of, talking about the opposing viewpoint and kind of showing me like the alternative side, I'm like, oh, I respect that side. And since I see that my viewpoint it's strong enough to be debated against, I'm like, oh, well, it really does make sense if I'm actually comfortable with somebody trying to debate it and the other side and everything. It adds to me feeling more resilient. I feel like it makes you a more innovative person as well. I feel like there's even historical evidence to show that societies that integrate diverse perspectives, they're able to adapt more quickly to a crisis, because you have different types of people with different types of skill sets, different types of, values and everything that they're bringing to the table. And it's like something catastrophic happens, it's like you don't just have one dominant thread of ideology or belief or value that everybody has. Like, everybody's not a carpenter. Some people, like, there's specialization. There's somebody who knows how to deal with that, somebody who understands what do we do now. Now, I will say that there is an appeal to monoculturalism, and that's not lost on me. I feel like for some people, it can be the simplicity or the clarity. Like, it offers like a single truth or way of life, which can feel really safe and stable. Like, I feel like for all humans, it's a very human thing to be looking for the answer, to be looking for the truth. And monoculturalism can have that. This is the truth. This is the answer. And once you find it, you're like, yes, finally, I have my answer. You feel very convicted about it, and it can feel amazing. I also feel like there are certain aspects of monoculturalism that are good when it comes to like living in a nation. Like, I feel like it can create a very strong sense of belonging and like cohesion among everybody. Like, when it comes to like, I would say like America can be good at this at times, where you can have people that are all different backgrounds, different politics and stuff, but the people who can say we disagree, but I am so thankful that I live in a country where I can disagree. I am so thankful that, like, that in and of itself, that is kind of American monoculturalism, to an extent, where it's like in some other countries you can't even really speak out against your leaders. You can't even say that you disagree with certain people without getting, like, you gone. Versus here, part of our culture is that we can be more outspoken. We can, hold on, I'm gonna take a sip of my tea. But and I feel like that can be something that kind of brings us together, even though there's so many things that people may feel like divide us. I do love being able to be around people who love being American. Like, I feel like, hey, we don't have to agree on our lifestyles or this, that, and the third. I'm like, but America is lit. Okay, like, I know that, like, it's not perfect, and all these things, and Of course, like people, I know people don't like America, but, I feel like even just like understanding the American attitude or American humor or understanding how America can be perceived globally and whatnot, those types of things can unite us and still it can feel safe and it can make us all feel like we belong with one another, that at the end of the day we're all still American, at the end of the day we're all still human and blah blah blah. And I feel like a lot of times when it comes to the logic of the echo chamber, when because they're reducing complexity, because they're not um like really exposing themselves to other perspectives, monoculturalism can become very attractive to people who find diversity of thought to be overwhelming or threatening. So there is an appeal and like it makes sense, especially if you're still trying to learn how you feel about a certain thing, like a new idea. It can be hard to understand the nuance and whatnot enough and feel like you are convicted of it, strongly enough to debate it or to be exposed to something that disagrees. You're like, hey, I'm still trying to figure out what I feel about this. So that makes sense. But echo chamber thinking comes with consequences. For one, there's radicalization. So when individuals are only exposed to one culture, or if you're only exposing yourself to one cultural or one political perspective, you can end up growing literally hostile towards other alternatives, towards other beliefs. You can literally get mad, violent, dangerous, all these different things just because somebody else has a different perspective. You want to yell because they disagree. You want to harm them because they disagree. That can be what happens when you're sitting there in your echo chamber. Because, like I said, when you're only being exposed to your beliefs, you don't even see, you're not even giving a fair chance, like a real fair chance to the other uh, alternative perspectives. And you're more so doing, a lot more assuming about those beliefs and the people who believe those things as opposed to understanding them. There's a lot to be said for people who can say, I disagree with you, you disagree with me, but I understand and I respect where you're coming from. That is what will keep you away from radicalization. But that doesn't happen when you're in the echo chamber, because in the echo chamber, right, you're not hearing things directly from the horse's mouth. You're not hearing about the opposing perspectives from the people with the opposing perspectives. You're hearing about the opposing perspectives from the people who have the same perspective as you, the people in the echo chamber with you, they could tell you anything. That does not necessarily have to be authentic or true. And so you're allowing yourself to be swayed and you're assuming all of these things, and you, like I said, you're getting hostile, you're getting more radicalized, you're starting to feel like, oh well, maybe the people who believe those things shouldn't even be alive. Like you start thinking these different types of things. Another thing when it comes to consequences of echo chamber thinking is that I feel like it can damage um like your ability to be like an intellectual. It makes you more fragile. I feel like because you're having a lack of exposure to competing ideas, it will make it so that people can't just engage in good faith debates, and they end up collapsing into being very reactive or outraged. I will say that I see that sometimes. I noticed that when today I was watching some of the reactions to Raven Ross's, like her hot take that went viral on Pilates, and something that I noticed in the people who were reacting was that they couldn't even let her video play. They had to pause it every couple words, to the point where it's like I could barely even make out what the girl was saying because they were just so reactive, because they likely, those people, what I'm assuming about them is that they probably stay in an echo chamber to the point where her, like, it wasn't even her, from what I understand, she wasn't even saying that she believed something different. She was simply cluing other people in on the alternative perspective or the why something was taking place. And people could not, like, they were so radicalized, so much in their own echo chamber that they couldn't even hear her say, well, hey, this is why certain people feel like this is where that comes from, this is the logic behind it. I'm not saying I feel that way, but people were like pausing it every 2 seconds. She can't even get her words out because they are intellectually fragile. Like, they are not exposed enough to competing ideas to the point where it's not threatening their nervous system. They hear the other ideas and they don't know how to just engage in good faith debates. Like, hey, you have to prove to me that you're homophobic. You have to prove to me that you're misogynistic. You have to prove to me that you're this, that, and the third. And I'm not saying like that's necessarily the way that you have to live your entire life. I definitely do believe in having, like, I believe in stereotyping people. I definitely do. But at the same time, I feel like when it comes to if you want a social climb, you know, there's just, how do I say this? I just feel as though it's okay to have your reservations and to hold them there, you know, but also check your confirmation bias. Check that you're not looking for any little thing that can be twisted to confirm your belief that somebody is XYZ type of way. You know, you can find ways to give people the benefit of the doubt, even if it's just mentally. Like, hey, I'm gonna go into this with an open mind, and hey, if you say something that's like the, like whatever, then I'm gonna be like, hey, okay, I gave you an open mind, and with that open mind, that good faith that I gave you, I saw that you were definitely what I thought you were. But you never know, you could be pleasantly surprised. I'd much rather, though, be the type of person who's not so reactive or outraged. I would rather just be in good faith and say, like, okay, I see this person's perspective. That doesn't mean I agree now, but I see that. Like, it's political multiculturalism is not about just agreeing with everybody because, like I said, there's no way to agree with everyone. But good faith, like that stops people from social climbing sometimes, because when you're painting yourself as the person who's politically monocultural, you're reactive, you're outraged, you're hostile, you are intellectually fragile, you think that your way of thinking is universal, you're not aware of the ways that you could just blindly be offending people, uh, you can close doors in your face because of the fact that, nobody wants to deal with somebody who can't view them with good faith. People from maybe another class, maybe another neighborhood, maybe another background and stuff, they don't even want to deal with you in any sort of capacity because it's like, I don't want to feel like I'm on trial all the time. I don't want to feel like I have to always prove that I'm not racist. I don't want to have to always prove that I'm not colorist. Like, I just want to live my life. And it's like, you're so hostile. You're so triggered. You're fragile. I don't want to deal with that. That's how some people can feel. And then I also feel like, since we're talking about politics, I feel like when there's a monocultural echo chamber, it's going to create more polarization, more people at very harsh extremes, as opposed to people being more balanced, being more moderate, being able to kind of see, I see on both sides. I kind of understand where these people are coming from. I see where those people are coming from. It makes it impossible to compromise because you're so far on that extreme that you know it's not a very good thing. You see this in our country where the pendulum swings really hard both ways because of echo chambers, because of polarization, because of radicalization. Then it's really hard to compromise and get something where everybody is giving up a little bit to get something that, like, it's really hard to do that. And so then it's like every 4 years, every 8 years, we're dealing with that. And, I feel like there's a problem when you're being so far removed from other schools of thought. You can have a form of monocultural blindness where I've touched on this before a lot in this video so far, but people, I just want to reiterate it. Like, people will assume that their worldview is common sense, and they'll make other people's perspectives seem irrational and immoral. That will keep you from social climbing. Nobody wants to feel like you just come out, you say something as if it's common sense to everybody else, and then everybody else, like, you're signaling to them either directly or indirectly, passive aggressively, that if you don't agree with me, I think you're stupid and I think you're a bad person. Nobody wants to deal with that. That ends up being a problem. It keeps you from moving into higher circles and building and networking with people. That will definitely keep you back, even if it's something that you're not saying outright. If you just have that mindset that it's common sense, then you're going to start reacting to people. If you see that they feel a little different than you, you're going to start reacting to them like, oh, now all of a sudden I think this person's irrational. I think this person's illogical. I think this person is stupid. I think this person is a bad person. I think that they're immoral now. And you're going to start acting from those beliefs. And then I feel like on the flip side, they're like, to kind of play devil's um advocate, there can be a form of multiculturalism fatigue where, like, exposure to too many perspectives without grounding yourself, it can lead to kind of like analysis paralysis, or like um just playing devil's advocate maybe too much, like excessively, being like, oh, well, I see this. Oh, well, I see that. Oh, well, I see this. Oh, well, I see that. Like, you don't always want to be in that spot. I feel like there's a balance where there's healthy friction, because I truly believe that, like, your true growth is going to happen when people are forced to encounter and process opposing, you know, sets of logic and opposing viewpoints, rather than just dismissing them. There's definitely a way to say, like, there's a happy medium. There's a way to get in between that. And I just like to kind of wrap this up. I'm hoping that the audio came together, because I was recording for about an hour the other day, and then I went to try to listen back to it. I was like, oh my God, I cannot hear anything that I'm saying really. So, like, the mic is like up in my mouth. But maybe that's where it's been supposed to be this whole time. Like, I don't know. I guess when I watch videos of people recording, they kind of have their mics up at their mouth. So maybe that's where it's supposed to be. But I feel like monoculturalism, it thrives on echo chambers, because the sameness feels safe, but it's going to breed fragility. It's going to shatter your worldview whenever you're encountering somebody that's a little different. They feel a little different about something. Multiculturalism forces you to be exposed to other beliefs, other ideologies, but it's going to require emotional and intellectual stamina. Like, you don't have to always be exposing yourself to something new, like in a healthy way, because when you're coming across it, you want to do it when you're in a mindset to where you can regulate, you can critically think about it, and no, you don't always have to be doing the labor of trying to hear somebody out and stuff like that. Like, even that can get to be too much. And it's okay to just want to be around people who you can connect with, and that agree with you and stuff. That's not bad either. I just feel like the danger is when the echo chamber is just like self-sustaining, and just everybody feeding on the same beliefs all the time, and it kind of even prevents people from realizing that they're in one, because they think that it's normal. They don't even understand that their belief, their little ideology, is a pocket. They don't understand that it's not a universal thing. It's not common sense. If you want to be able to go throughout the world and interact with different people and social climb and whatnot, you're going to come across people who don't feel the same way as you. It doesn't necessarily make them stupid. It doesn't necessarily make them a bad person. I feel like political monoculturalism can keep you from social climbing But political multiculturalism demands, it kind of puts the burden on you that you sharpen your reasoning by stepping outside of your comfort zone a little bit, like sometimes a lot of it. The monoculturalism, it demands more so a loyalty to sameness. We're all the same. And it can feel secure, it feels good in the moment, but it can end up leaving you unprepared for the complexity of reality, of real world. A lot of times when people are talking about, oh, touch grass, that is almost signaling to somebody that you are saying something like you're in an echo chamber right now. The real world, everybody doesn't feel like that or whatever. You want to be prepared for the real world, for the real people that you're going to come into contact with. I feel like the real danger doesn't necessarily lie in, you know, choosing one belief or choosing the other, but more so forgetting that other ideologies can exist. So, what do you think, worldies? Have you ever felt like you have beliefs that are more politically monocultural? Do you tend towards feeling like your beliefs are the only ones that are moral, that are logical, that are sound? Have you ever felt that uh, it has helped you to social climb in certain socials to be more politically monocultural? Have you considered or ever ventured towards hearing other perspectives and been maybe pleasantly surprised that other people on the other side weren't as bad as you thought? Have you ever blocked your blessing potentially by offending somebody with walking into the world, stepping off of online with a mentality of political monoculturalism? Let me know down in the comments below because I really like this topic and I want to talk about this more. And I want to hear what you beautiful people think. But until next time, worldies,